Uilo got too close to the school bully. She ended up being targeted for having a BY, a teenage dealing corn girl who secretly likes the bully, and both of Uilo's legs were permanently disabled. Right when the system asked if I wanted to return home, I chose no. Then I used all MOI points to exchange for a recovery card, helping her stand up once more. I pivoted as a way for her to become the top star in the entertainment industry. However, just when I thought we could finally be together, the school bully came looking for her again. That night, Uilo never came home. She and Makoto were spotted going into a hotel, which immediately shot up the trending searches. So when the system asked me if I wanted to renew the recovery card, about to expire, with 5 MOI points, I simply replied, no chip tradin, this time I'm not renewing IT. The system reminded me, next time will be your last chance. Renew the recovery card 3 times and IT becomes permanent. Please confirm once more. Would you like to continue 5 points to renew IT? Was the first time IT hit repeatedly asked for MOI this season. IT does understand human emotions, no WHY MOI and through div from the previous 2 times. But perhaps IT had seen the trending searches. Top star Uilo spotted entering a hotel late at night with a certain man. That was how I finally found out WHY as a person who was super set to celebrate MOI birthday with me never showed up. The watermarked videos and especially clear body neon who Uilo can recognize her even if it's just a blurry silhouette in black and white. And the man holding her tightly spelling Andrew's online speculation was also instantly recognizable to me, Makoto. After so many years, this person who won't give me so much grief has shown up again. No one expected he would ever come looking for Uilo again. After all back then, Uilo got bullied and hit her legs broken BY that Joe's dealing corn girl because she was too close to him. Even so, Makoto only came to see her once. He said to Uilo, you'll get better. Forget about me. You made someone better than me one day. That was all he left behind. Then taking Koichi's admission letter, he vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, Uilo's injuries were so severe that she didn't even take the college entrance exam. The once cheerful outgoing girl became depressed and fragile overnight, clinging to my hand, asking, George, will you ever leave me? I would not. So when the system asked if I wanted to go home, I chose no. Then I used all MOI points to exchange for a recovery card and helped her walk again. Later she wanted to enter the entertainment industry. So I powered every resource I had into helping her PRO open those doors. During that time I wore many hats. I was an assistant at a media company by day, a gaffer for small film crews by night, and took on editing freelance gigs on weekends. The many I Soviet went into acting classes, voice training, and image of her house for her. More than once, just me can we really make IT like this? I promised her just keep moving forward. If we figure out the rest. So I did whatever it took to get for help, hours myself to lead the right moments, raise countless toasts. I even ended up with a serious stomach condition from all the drinking just so she could reach the place she stands today. For her sake I endured every hardship. She would also be the first to call me when she got caught up in rumors. Don't believe term here is not true to any of IT. It's so been handled. But just as I found success in my own career and she became a top-tier celebrity when all our friends were sure you'd end up to get Makoto returned. I watched that looping video quietly 10 called Uilo's phone. IT connected and a lazy male voice answered hello. I hung up immediately. Makoto's voice is Mr. Cabrera, blonde with a hint of arrogance. Uilo once this him WHY, do you always sound so fierce? No wonder girls write you. They were once just partners, and I sat behind them, stood a young feeling out of place. Yet I witnessed every glance they exchanged, every subtle sign of affection, those tiny details I had deliberately forced myself to forget. Now they resurfaced like sharp blades cutting into my heart. On MOI 28th birthday, I lit a single candle and let IT burn down. Then I confirmed to the system, no. Chapter 2, I saw Makoto at Uilo's apartment. Just as I was halfway through entering the passcode, the door was pulled open from inside. Makoto stood there in a all-buttoned black shirt, stitched but hair slightly messy, but still carrying that same dealing corned a from before. When he saw me, he stabbed out a cigarette and frowned almost imperceptibly. I hadn't expected to see him here. He however wasn't the least bit surprised. Smiling, he greeted me, it's you, George. Long time no see. 6 years. I think he'd been a long time. But despite all these years, he hadn't changed there, though still as brush and silver with that same reckless devil my cherry glint in his essays. I could never understand Uilo. Never would. Was your life too smooth now to an eventful dichicry the same reckless thrill spiraling into the abyss just because she happened to reunite with the very man who had abandoned for all those years ago? He'd been 3 days since the scandal broke. Uilo hadn't contacted me even once. Her agency had already issued a statement. The man who entered the hotel with Uilo is her new agent. Due to a tight filming schedule the next day, they stayed up through the night discussing the script and production detail before leaving in the morning. Please refrain from excessive speculation. False rumors have already caused distress to the artist, and the studio reserves the right to pursue legal action. Entertainment industry statements were always half-truths at best. Their only purpose was to perceive fans. I tried to push aside thoughts of what might have happened between them over the past 3 days. Just as I was about to speak, a nervous voice called out behind me. "George, what are you doing here?" I turned round. In the brightly lit hall, she stood tall and slender brows slightly furrowed. She quickly walked toward me and repeated, "What are you doing here?" Meeting her uneasy gaze, I answered in a low voice, "The USB drive I left here last time. I came to get IT. IT was supposed to be a gift, something she was supposed to bring me on my birthday. But she never showed up. In the end, I had to come retrieve IT myself." At the my words, her face stiffened. A revelation guilty murmur slipped from her lips. "I'm sorry. I forgot." 3 days later, she finally remembered breaking our plans. But IT no longer mattered. I glanced past her at the still silent Makoto and said, "Enters WHC here's his apartment was the first thing I bought with my own earnings." IT wasn't in a prime location, but IT had a beautiful view. When I handed her the keys, I had joked, "Our future superstar needs a place of her own." She had smiled brightly, correcting me. "It's not just a my place, it'll be our future home target." Every single piece of furniture inside was something we had chosen together, arranged there together. Even the set on the counter was something we had picked out after visiting counter shops. But in the end, I never got to live here. The area was too remote, too inconvenient. Willow had been disappointed. I had to be by the window watching the leaves sway and reassured her with a smile. "Then I guess you just have to survey it for retirement." Even after we bought Butterplatz's show, Louise came back to this one whenever she had time off. She had told me every corner of this place smells like you. I sleep better here. Even when we once had a terrible fight and nearly broke up, she had insisted, like fighting for custody of a child, that she had to buy the apartment from me. Now I took a glance round. A pair of men's shoes at the entryway. A toppled wine glass on the coffee table. A scattered stacking scent lingerie on the floor. Fresh tulips in the washery clutching the ones I was set to bring. The vastic with the overwhelming scent of roses. Suffocating. Makoto's paket first feeling sincerity Sauri George. Dine beamed. I live right now. Idea's voice had that smoke almost imperceptibly lilt at the end. Willow frowned. "WHO, I shoot you, leave Makoto." Tenshu Powerty turned to me and declared Makoto has nowhere to stay right now. From now on, he be living here. Horton carried an indignant accusation as she did. "Makoto is struggling right now, George. That's partly you about to." Chapter 3, I knew Makoto was doing terribly. The night he appeared on the trending searches, I set the system to glimpse something I was never meant to see. After the college entrance exams, Makoto got into a decent university. There he met Saphir, the department's campus belle. Saphir merely teased him a few times, and he was instantly hooked, spending every penny of each living expenses just to buy her gifts. Only then did she begrudgingly gotten into that university. I never would have met her. Then he did. If George hadn't meddled in my business and helped me study, I wouldn't have gotten into that school in the first place. Right. This was my fault. I never should have pitied him when I realized that his cocky bravado was just a mask for his wounds. I shouldn't have stepped in when each stepbrother bullied him. I shouldn't have helped him when each stepfather beat him so bad he broke even while each matters to be indifferent. I definitely shouldn't have settled my scholarship money to rent him an apartment when he begged me to help him escape from his family. And I absolutely shouldn't have agreed to help him when he pleaded with me, saying he wanted to get into a school far, far away just so he could finally run from his past. But I had no choice. Because of my mission in this life, the reason I had traveled here was Makoto. As long as I ensured he safely escaped his toxic family, my mission would be complete. But then something unexpected happened. I fell in love with Willow. I even gave up returning home just to keep renewing her recovery card so she could walk again. When I asked the system how I could earn more points, IT told me create value for more people. The more lives you impact, the more points you will gain. So in college I started making videos and working part-time. After graduation I joined a media company scraping target points just to extend her recovery card each time. Now looking back, all that effort, all those points had been wasted. I watched as Makoto casually stepped into what was supposed to be our bedroom. I saw how badly review Alex had never healed Willow. Would you still be standing here, calmly pitying him? Would you still feel guilty now to save him? Her expression slowly hardened. I knew that Luke was about to get angry. Sure enough, the next second she snapped the fact is moei legs chilling beside the person who shared me was the delinquent girl, not Makoto. Can you be a little more general? That was all in the past. Do you really have to be so cold and heartless? Makoto was our classmate. I was supposed to just ignore him over some insignificant ancient history she called it insignificant. I repeated the word silently in my head. At that moment the system sent me a notification friendly reminder. The recovery card has expired. Patent's condition will soon revert to its original state. Chapter 4 the recovery card had never restored her in a single night. And now just the same, the effects all disappear instantly. It would take time for her body to revert. Our conversation ended on a sour note. Before I left, Willow's coat and reminded me, George, you should understand this is my decision. You have no right or position to interfere. She wasn't wrong. Because of her career, we had never officially been together. Just like back then when my status as her childhood friend and been enough to stop her from running toward Makoto without hesitation. I walked down the stairs step by step. For some reason I suddenly remembered that night in our second year of high school when the power had gone out during evening study. Willow had almost tripped on the stairs, but I caught her wrist just in time. Startled she gasped that scared me to death. I had reassured her. Joking. At there to be scared of it never let you fall. But then almost unconsciously she murmured, Makoto has night blindness. I wonder if it's okay. In that pitchy blood squirt I had held her steady, and she had been worrying about someone else. Now she was standing taller again, seeing Makoto is struggling. I can just ignore him. The task of history repeating itself was bitter. We were adults now. There was no need to spell things out. My memory is blurred with the present. I had to admit that whatever fate once bound me to Willow had already been severed long ago. Even now I could still recall that day during rehearsal. When I came to pick her up, she had run toward me, grinning against the wind. Her dress floated wildly, much like my heart. But looking back now, I realized that wind had died down a long time ago. We didn't see each other again after that. Even before this, after she shot to fame, we barely had time to meet. Her schedule was packed, and I was busy with my own work. The few times we did see each other, she would always smile and say, George W. Why don't you be my personal assistant? That way we can't see each other every day. I could have. But I needed to make sure the final renewal of the recovery card went smoothly before I could let go of my job. So I told her to wait a little longer. By the time I was finally ready, that personal assistant she had talked about had become Makoto. They rode in the same car, attended the same events. Even in their free time, they went shopping and ate together. On los birthday, I saw a Mujovrian's post on which a picture of the two of them captioned, Dreams do come true. The camera focused on Teram. The room was filled with roses. A cake sat on the table. Makoto held a ring dress in a casual black candy sweet and a robin smirk on his face. And Willow looked at him like he was the center of her world, her smile radiant, no longer carrying the distance she had when they first reunited. She looked over there, and my heart clenched painfully. It reminded me too much of our school days when Makoto had plucked flowers from the park just to make Willow. I remembered how she had told him back then, I hope the person I love will propose it to me on my birthday. And now, she had gotten exactly what she wished for. I closed my eyes, listening to the heavy thudding of my heart. I knew I'd soon be indifferent. I remembered the way Willow had called my feelings insignificant. And suddenly, I started looking forward to something. The day the recovery card would fully expire. Chapter 5 before it expired, I met Willow one last time. It was a farewell party for every aunt who was leaving the country. Makoto was there too. The two of them stood side by side to Mr. Cable, the center of attention at the gathering. By the time I arrived, Willow was already receiving well wishes from the crowd. Congratulations, Willow, you have finally found your happiness. Life is unpredictable. In the past, whenever Willow and I appeared together, the glances exchanged between us were always ambiguous, laced with unspoken emotions. But now the tides had shifted. The ones being just were Willow and Makoto, and this time the hints were far more direct. Of course, most people there didn't actually know the details of what had happened between Willow and Makoto back then. I had arrived there a little late, so I wasn't sure what had been discussed. During those few minutes I had missed due to traffic. I only called the voice of one of Willow's close friends to think. Well, the campers queen and the bad boys, so she should match Willow set to talk about Makoto all the time back in the day. I never thought you two would have a second chance at love, but not everyone knew when to keep quiet. Someone suddenly asked Makoto. Speaking of which, into Willow knew her leg back channel where you all those years. Makoto shook her head smoothly covering for himself. As that. If anything, KT was my fault. I owe Willow for that. Willow clearly didn't want Makoto to check the blame and quickly interrupted. A common let's not bring this up. It's really nothing. I'm standing here just fine now, it was just a small injury, no big deal. Just then someone spotted me entering the room. I was eager to steal the pot they grinned and called out. Still a small injury is still an injury. I heard that George stayed with you throughout your whole recovery. I need you to grow up together and went through so much I always thought you'd end up together. Makoto abruptly lifted his gaze toward me, his brow furrowing slightly. Willow rolled her eyes at me further undetached as she said, going through hardships together has an exaggeration. The one who healed my leg was the doctor, not George. To be honest, whether he was there or not, it didn't really matter. As for childhood friends, we grew up in the same orphanage. If that's the standard, we had so many childhood friends, we lost count. It was true. In this world I was an hour and an identity specially crafted for me by the system. I had grown up alongside Willow, but I was never the only one. And yet before Makoto reappeared, Willow had always emphasized how our bond was different. She said to say, I was the first person to talk to George, the first name he ever remembered, the first person to hold to his hint while playing games. She always remembered every first we had shared. She always told me that what we had was different, that it was one of a kind. But now here she was telling everyone that our past was nothing special after all. The room fell silent for a moment. Under the weight of their stress, I stepped into the private lounge, handed the farewell gift to the friend who was leaving and turned to Willow with an easy smile. That's right. VAT all to the doctor's miraculous skills. I thought to myself, yes, all thanks to the doctor's expertise. Only through countless apologies, countless variations, so you have done everything we can. Did they finally, with barely restrained excitement, tell me, this is nothing short of a medical miracle, but what they didn't know what one was that miracles, come with an expression date. Chapter 6 as the gathering near Tits and I ran into Makoto in the restroom. Standing in front of the sink, he casually pulled out a cigarette lit at and took a slug drag. Then he smiled and said to me, George, thanks. It was you who taught me to seize every opportunity by any means necessary. And now he seized it. You must be happy for me, right? I was speechless. I did remember her. Years ago, in another restroom, he had been pinned to the ground by a group of toxin by his stepbrothers. Filthy water had been dumped over him. Without hesitation. It was late in the afternoon, and the school building was nearly empty. I had been walking down the quiet hallway when I heard the commotion, and without thinking ran inside. I had been alone, yet I still grabbed a stick and felt armor of pulling Makoto out of that mess. After cleaning him up, I threw him a my Paris school uniform to cover himself. And at that moment when I shouldered him and let him out of the restroom, the system that he brought me into this world that he raised my memories and let me live really 4 years finally appeared with a notification host, your mission target has appeared. I asked, who is it? He answered, Makoto. From then on I made an effort to get close to him to offer him everything he needed. I told him to endure to fight to change with his circumstances that things would get better. And most importantly, I told him to seize every opportunity he could to turn things round. Even if he hadn't been a my mission target, I still would have wanted him to have a better future. Unfortunately, while it looked like he was following that advice, it was nothing more than another layer of self-deception. There are two kinds of people who commit wrongdoings. The first kind is their actions as wrong, in the first place so there is no guilt. The second kindness is wrong, but there is a genuine weighing personal gain over morality. These people struggle with their conscience. And so the second kind always finds a way to justify their actions to make themselves feel better. W.I. Makoto was standing in front of me now, thinking it was me who had taught him this. People like him whose malice isn't poor inevitably fall prey to their own kind. They pass their weaknesses to those who are just like them, seeking trust only to be completely devoured. W.H.I.'s affair would destroy him. I knew Makoto as the root cause of this entire mess, but I had no interest in diminishing with him. The outer gushy from the faucitas I withdrew, I can put a paper towel and glance at Makota through the mirror. With a polite smile I said, "Congratulations. You got what you wanted." Which AS smile stiffened. I didn't wait for him to respond before turning into a looking crewy. I had intended to say a quick goodbye to my friends and leave. But the moment I stepped into the banquet hall, I heard a drunken voice call out to me. "George Willow just landed another endorsement recently. Her future looks brighter than ever. Ask your good friend, aren't you going to congratulate her? Though you're not her only good friend. But you two did grow up together. You won't be upset just because someone pointed out the truth, would you, ha ha ha?" Always in the room turned to me. Willow, holding her wine glass, glanced over indifferently as if all this had nothing to do with her. That man wasn't wrong. A while ago, when Willow and Makota had been caught entering a theater together, the scandal had only boosted her popularity. With the help of her PR team, not only did it fail to damage her reputation, but it also landed her an endorsement deal with by many other celebrities. If Makota was the one she could never let go of emotionally, then becoming a superstar had always been her lifelong dream. She had worked hard for this over the years. Outside the flight-selling windows, a massive billboard displayed the advertisement for her newest endorsement. It was her moment of glory. I stood in silence for a few seconds. Then I took the glass over by the waiter and from across. The room raised it in a lost direction. With a careless smile I offered, "My congratulations. Then I wish you a dazzling career in the spotlight." I lied. I didn't want her to shine. I didn't want her future to be promising. I wanted her to vow from grace. I want her to be another miser trapped in fire and to out. I want her to heal only to forget the pain so she can suffer all over again. Chapter 7, the recovery card completely expired on an otherwise ordinary evening. The sky was clean by the rain, stretched pale and empty air above me as I waited at the crosswalk for the light to shine. Then the system's voice suddenly caught in my mind, patient symptom initialization progress completed. In an instant the sounds of passing cars faded into silence and my vision blurred. My memory surged like an unstoppable tide colliding and enveloping until only one thought remained crystal clear. Willow would never stand up again. The phone in my pocket vibrated gently. It was a call from a loss-attending physician. He was the same doctor who had restored her legs all those years ago. Every year since he had conducted her developers and reported the results to me immediately. Every time the results had been the same, her recovery remained perfect, nothing out of the ordinary. But this time his eternally studious voice as his paquet, "Им совсем wrong. Miss Lusault injuries have suddenly relapsed and the deterioration is progressing rapidly. We haven't yet identified the cause, but rest assured we are contacting specialists abroad." I cut him off. "You don't need to update me on a lost condition anymore." The other end of the line fell silent for a moment. Then after a brief pause he hesitated. "But you specifically asked me before." He was about to remind me. Remind me that I had once insisted every single time Willow had a envelope I was to be informed immediately. Remind me that no one had cared more about her recovery than I had. I held the phone quietly. I never heard the rest of each sentence. After a short silence he simply said, "Understood." He must have been standing near the hospital room when we spoke because just before the call ended I heard the sound of glass shattering. And a nurse's careful voice trying to soothe some more, "Miss Liu, please come down." I thought Willow probably understood her condition better than the doctor ever could. But even worse than her legs was her dream. The entertainment industry moves fast. To the profit-driven capitalists running the show, a star who can no longer stand is Arthurs. The first to abandon her was her company. With each passing day, her roles, endorsements, and sponsorships were swiftly carved up by others devoted without hesitation. What remained were only massive breach of contracts, penalties, and a flood of scandals, both real and fabricated. As new talents were promoted to step on her fouling reputation, as gossip Perkon soaked the last drop of attention from her name, Willow faded into oblivion. The last time I heard her name from a stranger was on a public bus. Two young girls were chatting behind me about a newly debuted actress. One of them said, "Wow, the entertainment industry replots a star so fast. She really looks like Willow." The other scowled. "Och, don't even say that odd bad luck. Our new queen is a truly young lady, not some pathetic girl who broke her legs over a man with her college entrance exams and then made the same mistake all over again." I turned and my head slightly looking out there. We ended the massive billboard on the building across the street, and suddenly I remembered. Not long after Willow had entered the industry, we had passed BY here to get. She had pointed at the advertisement on the billboard, horror is brimming with hope, as she asked me, "George, do you think one day my picture will be up there?" I had smiled traveling for her as I replied, "Of course it will." And in the end it did. She had become a celebrated actress, looking her path to success without any obstacles in sight. But now new faces had replaced the old. The billboard that once bore her image had long been torn down and discarded. Willow's year had ended. Chapter 8. When I made the decision to let go of Willow, I had imagined this moment counter-stand her legs giving out again, her world crumbling. I pictured myself rushing to her side, triumphant and cruel, kneeling down at her as I said, "Well, Willow, still think it's no big deal," but now that the day had truly come, I felt nothing. No excitement, no satisfaction. In effect, if the hour for its director hadn't reached out to me, I probably wouldn't have gone into the hospital at all. Gone were the days when the thought of seeing her filled me with anticipation. Before that, I had already received countless messages from mutual friends. All of them said the same thing. "George, something happened to Willow. Come to the hospital now." "When are you going to see Willow? Her leg injury has relapsed." "You grew up to get, are you really going to abandon her? Do you even know what kind of state Willow is in right now?" Of course I know. I could picture a TV with her legs ruined, her tears streaming down as she broke down completely. And even Makoto's choice was the same as before. The system informed me he had abandoned Willow again. At first, when her condition worsened, Makoto put on a responsibility for that, making promises to her. "Willow, don't worry. You'll get better. I stay with you this time. I hasn't been you aside before, but I won't make the same mistake again." But as the diagnosis came back worse than the last, and as Willow spiraled deeper into despair, Makoto began to grow anxious and irritable. His reassurances turned into outverted excuses. The doctors are still discussing treatment options. Just hang in there. I'm not a doctor, what is the point of me staying here? The final rupture between them came when the doctor officially declared her permanent disabled. Almost immediately, her agency cut ties with her brand, started pulling their contracts, and the scandals real and fabricated flooded the media. At the same time, the woman who had once abandoned Makoto's ex-girlfriend suddenly reappeared. Tears in her eyes, voice trembling, she begged him for forgiveness. Makoto no longer battered hiding each disgust toward Willow. When he finally muttered that he couldn't afford to waste any more time on her, Willow snapped. "Makoto, don't you defeat him like this because of you." But all she got in return was it is indifferent reply. He frowned. "Because of me, Willow, you threw yourself at me and got beaten up for it. Did I force you? And besides, Shuisha, I am me. What does any of this have to do with me?" That was the breaking point. Willow hurled a glass at the flower, screaming at him to get out. Makoto didn't hesitate. He grabbed Daria's coat and bolted straight into the arms of the woman who had left. Him before. The system caught all the play back there. I wasn't sure how to describe the emotions I felt at that moment. A sense of inevitability. The quiet hollow feeling of everything coming full circle. I never responded to any of the messages from our friends. Not even the one buried deep at the bottom of moей inbox. George and Alex shared so much. Chapter 9. I saw Willow at the hospital. Her condition was worse than the rumors suggested. What if fragile Patricia once had long been devoured by pain, leaving her looking haggard and gaunt. When I arrived there, she was asleep, having just been sedated for fear she might hurt herself in her natural outburst. The hour furniture director, who knew nothing of our recent history, simply assumed there had been some misunderstanding between us. She sighed softly and said, "Time really flies. I still remember how you two were always together when you were little. You were the quiet one and Willow was a joy. She was scared of everyone except you. You were the only one who made her feel safe. Now all of a sudden something like this happens. The rumors online are so chaotic, I don't know what's true and what's not. But I hope you're both doing okay. No matter what, I'm sure Willow really wants you by her side right now. Childhood bonds aren't easy to come by, George." I smiled politely and replied with careful tact, "Director, in the ruined childhood bonds everywhere. If that's how we define it, Willow's hardly my only childhood friend. Besides, I'm sure you remember her when she got hurt all those years ago. The news going round now isn't really that far off the mark. And in any case, I have my own life too. One day I might meet someone I truly care for. I can just stay by her side forever for the sake of some minor childhood bond. Only then did I realize that Willow, who had seemed faster asleep, was actually awake. She didn't open her eyes, but her eyelids fluttered slightly. The director murmured something about how things aren't as simple as they used to be, and stepped outside to take a phone call. I reached for an orange peeling IT slowly. Its fresh scent momentarily drowned out the sharp smell of disinfectant. Willow opened her eyes, stared at the ceiling, and spoke in a shaky voice. I had a dream. In IT you came from another world, and you stayed here for me. There was a system, and you set all your points to get a recovery card so I could stand on my own legs again. I kept my head down, focusing on peeling the orange. Truth be told, I wasn't surprised she dreamed about that because it was something I asked the system to show her in her sleep. Since it was my doing, it made sense to let her know. So when she finished speaking, I told her some of the white pit and went wrong with her story. It wasn't a dream. It really happened. Not only that, I can still change my mind anytime. I can use my remaining points to renew the card, make it permanent so you could stand up again. I was telling the truth. Ever since I'd given up on renewing the recovery card, the system had made it clear that as long as I had enough points, I could go back on the decision at any time. At my words, Willow turned her head sharply with a glare of hope in her eyes. I offered her a faint smile. But on my way to the hospital, I spent those points on a stray orange cat that had lost both its hind legs. I wasn't lying. That its hind legs had likely been served when it was very young. It dragged itself around in hiding, pitiful to watch. The points it caused to heal the cat were minimal and weren't easily accumulated, and I could give it an instant permanent recovery. After all, nobody pays attention to sudden changes in a street such condition. When my words sank in the color drained from a lost face. After a long silence, she bit her lip and asked, George, you never really loved them that much, did you? I paused in the middle of peeling cruiser and speed studied the look in her eyes and felt an urge to leave. Because deep down she had always known I loved her. Loved her now that she believed that a little provocation might make me prophetic. Be I repeating all of this again. Chapter 10. I really don't like revisiting the past. But even on Willow for so long, and I've experienced so much together that when I wake in the middle of the night at my weakest moments, I can't help remembering all the times I took her from one production set to another, helping her audition. The way it stand outside in the freezing snow, pushing out flies for her appearances, searching through every frame of her work to clip and edit a promotional video. I'm not sure what frame of mind she was in when she made that remark, but I didn't get angry. I just answered calmly, look, if seeing it that way makes you feel better, then you can believe that if you want. But Willow, I really have no feelings left for you. The hospital room went quieter again. She gazed back up at the ceiling. After a long pause, she murmured so sweetly it sounded like a bitter joke. Right, you don't love me anymore. If nothing unexpected happens, that should be the last time we ever see each other. Willow seemed to sense it too. Before I left, she closed the corner of my shirt. Her eyes were red as if she were desperately trying to keep her emotions in check. Trust me, if I understood you up that night, would everything be different now? I took a hasty back pinch in the breach of my innocence, and Willow, there isn't if. Once you make a choice, you have to deal with the consequences. On the way home, the system only confused. Host W not give sure not a chance, maybe things would be different this time. I shook my head. Because you were already seen how things turned out with Willow, I replied. She got abandoned a second time, so here is no reason I won't get abandoned a second time too. And of course, here is Makoto. As for their charity renewal, Ichi's girlfriend, the one who initially left him, had gotten involved in a pyramid she meant to lure him into there he did. After the police raided the entire operation, she committed suicide by jumping off a building. Debt collectors can king at William's door. I asked the system, are you going to pick a new host to survey him now? It replied no. He only had one chance, and it isn't for life. The mission has been completed successfully. The salvation system has unbound itself from Makoto. I didn't stay different question, so why did you choose me in the first place? I remembered how she dragged me here without even asking. The system responded, when selecting a target who needs help, the salvation system conducts things with data analysis. By the same token, we run data analysis to find the best possible host. Our results showed that your binding was very similar to Makoto's. You'd understand him more deeply and the success rate would be higher. The smile froze on my face. It nearly forgotten that my real home life wasn't so different from Makoto's. a father, who drank and was violent, and a mother who just stood by coldly. I urged Desperatello to get away from Terem, and right after I started the system whisked me out to this world. Going home on cost any point that was my reward for finishing the mission. IT was also the system claim compensation for having forced me into this world without my permission. They grant me a single wish. Tentatively I asked any wish at all, the system answered yes. Any wish at all. On the condition that I didn't violate any laws, morals, or the natural order. I hadn't decided yet what that we should be, so I decided to go home first. I spent a week tying up loose ends at work, saying goodbye to friends, telling them I was traveling her bear out. When I was about to leave this world, the system gave a final reminder. The salvation system is about to unbind from the host. Please rate our service. I said ma'am and replied, next time remember to ask your prospective host for consent. Don't act like a human trafficker howling people will be fires. The system went quiet for a few seconds, then responded, thank you for your feedback on the salvation system. Headquarters will immediately implement corrective measures. Finally, in the midst of my consciousness fading away, I heard a soft beep and the system spoke one last time, blinker bleed. Host goodbye. Chapter 11 I woke up in my dormitory bed. The ceiling fan whirred so wildly overhead its rhythmic home blending with the chorus of cicadas chirping outside. They carried a mixture of familiar since detergent, old books, and the faint trace of instant coffee. The system had altered the flow of time between worlds. The 20 years I had spent in that other world had amounted to nothing more than 18 minutes of noon per year. Life grew busier after that. Sometimes late at night, in those moments when the world was utterly quiet, I would suddenly recall the journey to another life. I felt distant as if it had all been nothing more than a fleeting dream. Memories that once seemed unforgettable were gradually buried beneath the endless tide of time. The only thing that lingered, the one thought that never quite faded, was the wish the system had promised me. For a long time I wondered how I was supposed to contact IT after the unbinding. How was I supposed to tell IT what I wanted? Luckily, I had never quite figured out what I truly wished for. 10 many years later, on one of my birthdays, the lights in the room were turned off and candles flickered in the darkness. I closed my eyes. For the first time in a long while, I took my wish seriously. And just as I did, a familiar mechanical voice echoed swiftly in my mind.